Welcome back to picking a March Madness tournament champion based off KenPom data. Now that we're in the Sweet 16, we're going to update these numbers, update these figures, and let you know who has the best chance now and where the edge is if you are betting futures on this. So before we hop into this, just to get everyone oriented, what we're looking at and why we're doing this. First things first, you may have heard these KenPom stats about these teams. Have KenPom's predicted the last X champions based off these stats. A little bit of nuance there. We're looking at the pre-tournament rankings because that's a little more powerful than looking at the post-tournament rankings, which is what commonly gets quoted, which is a little incorrect. And then we're going to show you about where these teams line up, where these teams line up at, and what they look like. So without further ado, this is the tournament list before we started the March Madness tournament. I'm going to compare what it was before round one and where it is now that we're going into the Sweet 16. So as you can see here, we have some columns. Let's get everyone familiar. We have the team, the offensive efficiency, which is how many points per 100 possessions they're scoring, what their rank is, their defensive efficiency, which is how many points they're giving up, their defensive rank, and then the composite is the rank difference between the two, or the total difference between the two. So in this case, UConn 126.6 minus 94.4 gets us 32.2. And that's how this list is organized in terms of highest to lowest adjusted efficiency. And then over here, you can see we have our calculated championship odds based off our model. And then what we see is offered in the books right now. So again, for instance, UConn, we have them as a team that should have been a plus 239 odds to win the championship. You could find them as high as plus 450. So that was actually a huge edge to bet on UConn, about 11.4%. And then we did the same thing for the Final Four odds and the edge there. So what are we actually looking at? So when you look at the KenPom stat, you can see that really every champion since KenPom has been releasing these numbers has been in the top 57 in offensive efficiency and the top 44 in defensive efficiency. So again, this is the list before the tournament started, and you saw a lot of teams here, right? And clearly, yeah, that's cool, but what does this actually do for you if you have to bet half the field? That's not really productive from a profit standpoint. So then we said, okay, well, let's narrow this down. Which teams are the most likely to do this? And so we adjusted the cutoffs a little bit more. So we said the top 21 in offensive efficiency and top 37 in defensive efficiency. And this gets you 20 out of the last 22 champions, which is, still pretty powerful, but also a lot better because it dramatically cuts down your list. And as you can see here, these are definitely some juggernaut favorites who made this cut. Now, the notable exception, if you're watching this right now, you can probably know Auburn is really the only team on here that has lost so far. And, unfortunately, that first round exit to Yale, not great because Auburn had some huge potential edge, at least for a Final Four appearance. But, that's March Madness for you. So where do we stand at now? And I want to say before we hop into this, you can find all this information completely for free on our website, bullytheboard.com. Sign up for our March Madness package. Again, it is completely free. Not one singular penny is needed to access this data. And you can see here we have the updated list as of March 25th going into the Sweet 16. And like I said, what do you know? We have all these teams that were here on our list over here, except for Auburn. And so all these other teams are looking pretty good. But what about the odds update, right? Where's the value? So we said beforehand we had a lot of value that was going to be on UConn to go to the championship, about 11%, followed by Purdue, and then Auburn, who was no longer in it. So how does that shake up now? Well, if we go over here now, we can see here that edge on the UConn is pretty much all gone. Now, not saying that UConn is a bad bet. It's just an appropriately priced bet, honestly, at negative 0.1% edge because we have it as a plus 216 odds, and it's currently being listed at plus 215. So pretty spot on. Now, again, just to make sure we're on the same page, UConn is who our favorite is per our model, followed by Purdue, and then followed by Houston, and then Arizona coming in fourth here. So just to kind of orient you, this is not in order of who's the most likely to do it. You're looking over here for championship odds to see that. So, all right. So then looking at where's the value at, Purdue now becomes the front runner for the value, at least, of winning the championship. Again, we have them at plus 310. They are being priced at plus 650, which is, definitely a huge, huge difference. Now, looking at their bracket, they've got Gonzaga coming up, and then they have the winner of Creighton, Tennessee, which, at least to make the Final Four seems, you know, not the toughest task. Now, of course, this is the same team, or this is the same school that lost to FDU in the first round. So we're definitely not taking anything for granted whatsoever. But you can see here the championship edge definitely is there to be had. Now, speaking of the Final Four schedule, again, they do have a relatively weak schedule, going against Gonzaga, and I don't want to call Tennessee weak, but, Tennessee is not on this list of teams that can win the championship. You can see their Final Four odds. It's actually a negative edge. So they are being priced a little more expensive than they should be to make the Final Four by our calculation. So I think there's definitely a reason there. They're probably a sexy pick because, people are just looking at the remaining schedule. All right. In terms of who else is there, a little bit of value here on Duke at 5.4%. And then a little bit of value here on Arizona. So we'll see what actually shakes out there. But in terms of the value, we're looking at potentially Purdue. But if you're looking at who has the best chance, by all means, we make that as UConn really to take this whole thing home. Okay, now looking at the Sweet 16 teams, again, this is on our website. You can find this completely for free. We have the matchup maps. And so what we've done is, if you haven't heard, there are Dean Oliver's 4 factors to winning the basketball game. And quite simply, it's shooting, which you measure in terms of effective field goal percentage, rebounding, turnovers, and free throw rate, which is how often are you getting to the free throw line as a percentage of your field goal. So if you look at all that, those things are what makes up who wins games. And it's actually what KenPom uses in his formula to determine efficiency. All right, so looking at that, these are the 16 teams that are left. And just to get you oriented here, the further to the right you are, the better you are on offense. And the closer to the top you are, the better you are on defense. So we can see here UConn has the best offense left, followed closely by Illinois, Alabama, and Purdue, while Houston and Iowa State have the best defense left in the tournament. Obviously, Houston got into a pretty crazy game against Texas A&M that ended up being somewhat of a shootout and going into overtime, hitting those triple digits. But we've seen what Houston's done all year, and we've definitely seen what Iowa State's done all year, and what Iowa State did to Houston at the end of the Big 12 tournament. So looking at effective field goal percentage, again, you can see here, this is how well people are shooting a 2 and a 3. Creighton, a team to be a little concerned about if you're worried about for explosive plays. Going down here to rebounding, no surprise here from terms of offensive rebounding. Zach Edey and Purdue leading the way there. And then Zona with Umar Ballo and company leading the way for defensive rebounds. And then coming down to turnovers, Houston taking care of the ball very, very well on offensive turnover percentage. And then Iowa State causing the most turnovers on defense. And this is part of Purdue's bugaboo, right? This is why people, I think, have a little bit of a hard time trusting Purdue to get it all done. As you can see here, they turn the ball over a lot on offense, and they don't cause a lot of turnovers on defense. Definitely not a recipe for success. All right, and then finally, the free throw rates. Again, how often are you getting to the free throw line? On offense, you can see Purdue is leading the charge. Again, gotta imagine a lot of that is the Zach Edey effect, getting fouled down low, as big of a monster as he's been. And then defensively, are you not sending your opponent to the free throw line? Creighton is pretty much in a league of its own, although they don't get to the free throw line a lot themselves compared to the rest of the field. So the last thing we have here, a little bonus stat for you. Looking at the tempo, and so these are how fast are teams going by how offensively efficient they are. And no surprise here, we can see Alabama is kind of ahead of the crop. They go breakneck speed. So the further to the right you are, the faster you are on tempo, and they're also really efficient on offense. And then versus a Houston, which would be the exact opposite, who goes at a very slow pace, and not super efficient on offense, but they kind of smother you with their defense. And then finally, looking at some three-point shootings. This is kind of helpful for just like with Tempo, looking at teams with potential mismatches and potential to see which teams can potentially hit their overs, right? If you have fast-paced teams who shoot the three very well, definitely something to look out for. And so you can see here, Purdue is leading the league in terms of three-point percentage on their shooting. And how often are they shooting here? This is three-point shooting rate. So Creighton shoots the most threes in terms of making up their percentage of shots, but Purdue is hitting the most threes in terms of the percentage of actually 3 points they go in, right? So looking at some combination of this versus like a San Diego State, who is not shooting a lot of threes, at least below average amount of threes compared to the rest of the Sweet 16 field, and definitely is not hitting a ton of threes relative to the Sweet 16 field. So can that be a difference maker down the stretch? We certainly will see. And then the last one is again looking at tempo and 3-point shooting rate. So again, this is why Bama is such a dangerous team, is because they go fast, they are efficient on offense, and oh yeah, they shoot a lot of threes. And so we always hear live by the three, die by the three. But if Alabama's hitting those threes, living by the three, that makes them a very, very dangerous team. So hope this all helps. Again, this is all completely free. Come to our website, bullytheboard.com. Go down to member access. You can see here, scrolling down, free March Madness access, completely free. Sign up and you'll be good to go. All right, I hope that helps. If you like this kind of content, please let us know by giving us a like and a subscribe. We'll be back doing this again for the Elite Eight, Final Four, and of course, giving you some model predictions for the championship game. All right, as always, good luck and see you later.